first visitors to our national forest this month.
Ooh. Otherwise, there's a lion on the loose.
Someday you'll meet a cat who's lost her hearing, and that'll be the end of you.
Don't be ridiculous. We're in Europe. Somewhere.
Keep it quiet, you loudmouth rodent.
Sir, monsieur, no mess bec American Express.
My sommes pardon? I bet we crossed into Italy.
Signor,
Czechoslovakia. It could be Switzerland. It should be.
I speak English.
wow, you Europeans speak so many different languages.
I'm afraid I speak only English.
Oh, then you're a tourist too?
No, I live here.
But this is...
Fenwick, the Duchy of Grand Fenwick. Our sovereign is the Duchess Gloriana, the 12th.
Okay, that's really interesting, but we're really lost. We rented a car this morning in Nice, which is somewhere in France. We left the car to do a little bird watching.
Oh, you've come to the right place. I've written a book about our birds. Perhaps you've heard of it? Migratory Birds of Grand Fenwick.
I've never even heard of Fenwick.
You're in Grand Fenwick. This is our national forest. I'm our chief ranger, Tolik Basco.
Please, which way is the road?
But wouldn't you like to see our forest? We have a variety of trees, a waterfall 20 feet high, and a haunted oak where a mad huntsman is said to have hanged himself.
So does the park in Pure, Illinois. We've hardly got time for, like, major sights.
I could take you on a quick tour. Don't pass up the country just because it's small.
How small?
5 miles long by 3 miles wide.
I suppose it's one of those tax-haven places.
Grand Fenwick was found by a roving band of English bowmen before the discovery of America.
That's very interesting.
The father of our country, Sir Roger Fenwick, came to France with Edward III to form a free company of his own, with which he won his duchy. Our flag was first raised in the year 1370.
Well, what does your flag look like?
Oh, a double-headed eagle. From one beak, the eagle is saying yay, and from the other, nay.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Why would the King of France...
Oh, Charles the Wise.
Whatever. Why would he let Fenwick get away with this?
Twice
man?
Charles sent expeditions, and twice they were repulsed, thanks to the power of the English longbow.
But after that?
Well, Sir Roger had the good fortune to establish this duchy in an extraordinary location.
Oh, what's so extraordinary about it?
No coal, no iron, no oil, no precious metals, no harbors or waterways.
That is harsh, man. No wonder you were left alone.
It wouldn't take me long to point out some of our native birds.
How can a country 3 miles by 5 claim to have native birds?
How does your village of Baltimore claim an oriole? The only being that can pass on the nationality of a bird is the bird.
Okay, so you've got birds. Anything else?
Oh, an excellent wine with an unusual bouquet. It's our only export, Pinot Grand Fenwick.
We must get back to the road.
Yay or nay?
It's that way, just walk straight.
I'm sorry we can't take time for a little country too.
Later, man.
We also have an unusual variety of field mice.
Goodbye!
Well, if you're ever in Peoria.
Go ahead, give them a scare.
Tilly, Basco?
Yes, here. The one time I ask you...
Tilly,
Yes?
you're needed at the castle.
Me?
There's a meeting of the Privy Council called by Gloriana.
But why would they want me?
It must be important.
When your sovereign is a 22-year-old girl, you never know what to expect. I used to see her a lot, but now it takes an emergency.
Tilly, if the meeting should be about wine production, could you put in a word for more modern methods? This is stopping on grapes. I co-ran with purple feet.
Oh, it must be an emergency. Come on.
questions to their hereditary leaders.
You're finding the Constitution inconvenient again? I just find it disappointing that the 12th Count of Mountjoy has to debate policy with Mr. Benter, the descendant of a simple yeoman.
A yeoman who accompanied Sir Roger Fenwick, who stormed the castle in which you are now standing.
Your family has managed to mention that fact every parliamentary election since the 15th century.
The Duchess Gloriana the 12th.
Pray, be seated. We've called this emergency meeting to allow both parties to speak before we reach our decision.
Yes, Your Highness.
Before we became your Duchess, we were limited to one pomegranate at Christmas time. If neither party can solve this financial crisis, we may have to go back to that. Perhaps give them up entirely.
But, Your Highness, pomegranates have
Devalue
been...
the Fenwick florin, lower wages, and cancel all benefits, including pomegranates.
No, never.
We appreciate your concern. However, since the market for our wine has been stolen by a cheap imitation now being manufactured in California, we no longer have enough foreign exchange to pay for the import of necessities. We recognize David Benter, Esquire.
Yes. I say, add a little water to the fermentation vats, lower our prices, and try to compete with the imitation.
Delusionists. Your Highness, those who would try to add water to the Pinot Grand Fenwick would debase any work of art. They would take the Da Vinci portrait of Gloriana VI and put it on a postage stamp. They would take the words of our immortal bard, Horace Venshield, and use them to sell truffles. No, there's a better way to raise funds.
Which is?
We'll do what all the countries do. Get it from America.
America won't even answer our protests.
Instead of demanding justice, we'll just try asking for money.
I don't think it's so easy getting money from America anymore.
We'll wait till you hear my scheme. We'll say we're throwing out some purses.
It's not enough these days, Uncle.
Communists? Right-wing extremists? Students?
Students?
That's your plan?
We could form a real party, stage demonstrations, try to appeal publicly to China or Rhodesia.
No, I don't like it. Suppose by some wild chance they do take over.
I've solved that too. For the leader of this temporary movement, I've chosen a civil-minded, non-political backwoodsman.
You're sure he'd be safe?
I've already sent for him. You can judge for yourself.
Your Highness, Tony Bascom is outside claiming he'd been sent to this meeting.
Tully Bascom.
That's our man. His main interest is birds.
I know. When my father was still alive, I used to climb trees in the national forest. I even built a birdhouse for some swallows.
If you don't think he's the right man for the
He's
job.
the right man.
Tony Bascom.
Hello, Glory. Your Highness.
Tully, we haven't seen you in quite some time.
Not since you've started calling yourself we. Be respectful, sir.
Wait, I only do it sometimes.
You've always known where to find me. Our national forest needs constant attention. We had 4 visitors today.
Her Highness has more to do these days than build birdhouses.
I don't suppose it's still around.
There's a colony of scissor-tailed swallows from Sicily in it now. I've kept it repaired.
The reason you were called. Can you take time out of your schedule to form a political party of communists?
I'd rather not. Their philosophy doesn't seem to work out very well, especially in agricultural regions.
We wouldn't want them to be successful, just appear successful.
So the Americans will lend us money to save us from the communists? It's a trick, and even if the trick were successful, we wouldn't be saved. We'd have sold our honor. We'd have deliberately defrauded another nation.
Your principles are magnificent. However, I've got to save the duchy.
Save it from what?
Bankruptcy.
If you can't do it honorably, it isn't worth saving.
Oh, no.
Tully, what am I to do?
Well, why don't we just raise the price of Pinot Grand Fenwick? There's a big demand for it.
No, not anymore. An American venture in a place called California is using our label, the picture of our castle, and selling it at half price.
They call it Pinot Grand Fenwick. It ruined our economy.
What's the honorable course now?
Official letter demanding an end to this fraud and prompt reparations.
We've sent such letters. They're ignored.
In that case, our demands mean just we'll have to enforce them.
How?
Well, if they won't respond to our protests, we'll have to declare war.
What? Declaration might be.
I don't know about surprise attacks.
Against the United States of America?
And to make sure there's no misunderstanding, send it registered mail, return receipt requested.
Totally. We've no weapons, no factories, no resources, and only 6,000 people.
But we're in the right.
Stop being so simple-minded and think of the consequences.
But we have to fight, regardless of the consequences.
Which are that we'd lose. If you'd study recent history, you'd realize the consequences of losing a war against the United States. History shows this has to be considered.
Considered? What are you talking about?
Pomegranate, Uncle?
If there's anything to heredity, I'm sure you'll reach the right decision. And I offer myself as the first volunteer.
You may have solved our problem, Tully. You really have. You're excused to your duties with my thanks.
Good to see you again, Glory.
Good to remember how life used to be.
He must be mad, completely bereft of his senses. He should be locked up as a raving lunatic.
I wouldn't say that. Perhaps we will declare war.
Don't even
I'm not joking.
It's hardly necessary to say we'd lose.
Of course we'd lose.
And think of the consequences.
We have to fight, regardless of the consequences. Mr. Bascom has convinced me.
Stop this irresponsible nonsense. These matters are
Much
too
too important to be left to a girl whose main interest is pomegranates, but they are left to me, Uncle.
And you've been reading romantic accounts of military geniuses who defied all odds.
I've been reading Medici, Metternich, and Disraeli, politicians who have to live by their wits, because we haven't much else, have we?
I don't care whom you've been reading. I can't let you jeopardize our entire
And
country.
a marvelous little handbook written by some Italian,
Italian?
full of practical suggestions. A little drastic, perhaps, but as a last resort,
Machiavelli?
that's the one. And a girl who has a way of dealing with difficult associates. Lucrezia Borgia. Does the pomegranate taste bitter, Uncle?
Highness,
Wait, I don't understand. You were saying about the United States?
If I remember my history books correctly, there are few more profitable undertakings than to declare war on the United States,
But Highness.
and to be defeated.
profitable to be defeated?
The ink is no sooner dry in the surrender document than the United States is sending food, machinery, money, and technical aid to the former foe.
That's exactly what they do.
To avoid them from former adversaries, they extend generous credits and the most favorable trade agreements, and that's just the beginning.
You're sure about this?
Remember all they did for Germany and Japan after World War II? Now their economies are booming.
She's right. We declare war by Monday, be vanquished by Tuesday, and rehabilitated beyond our wildest beliefs by Friday night. I must confess, when you were discussing this with Tully, you had me a little confused.
Actually, he was making a good suggestion.
Without realizing it, the man's even more idiotic than I thought.
He's so simple-minded, he still believes that right can prevail over all odds. It's an attitude that served us well in the 14th century when the French tried to invade. It's an attitude we'll have to assume now, with Bascom and everyone else.
Yes, quite right.
If anyone knew our real
Exactly.
Our first step will be to dispatch the declaration. For the remainder of this emergency, I'm dissolving Parliament. For our battle cry, I suggest the appropriate slogan, forward, regardless of the consequences. Attend me while I draw up the documents.
Johnson! Miss Johnson, I'm in a hurry!
Right with you, sir. Sir, I checked and you can get on any of the shuttle flights between Washington and New York City, but why don't you go with the president on his plane?
It attracts enough attention when the president suddenly flies to New York. The Secretary of State, not to mention the general in charge of weapons research, goes along as well. The rest will know something's happening.
But General Zipper already left. He took a military plane.
We go separately, and we don't meet again until we reach Professor Culkin's in his laboratory. Oh, that's how the times have changed. An eccentric physicist refuses to work anywhere but at Columbia and summon the president.
Wait, aren't there thousands of these weapons research projects?
That's what it said on the placard a student was carrying. I happened to notice because he hit me with it. Let's see. Aspirin, bicarbonate, buffering, and 3 kinds of tranquilizers.
For you or for the president?
He could use a little tranquilizing. Miss Johnson, you don't happen to have something particularly cheerful in this mail, do you? Something I could show the president?
No, but the boys in the press are up to their trick. The minute get another one of those crazy communications from the mythical European kingdom onto the Northwest again, the one with the double-headed eagle saying yay and nay.
Ah, yes, protest in the morning.
This one might be the president. This one is a declaration of war.
Those press characters go through a lot of trouble for a little fun.
To the President, Congress, and people of the United States of America, greetings. Whereas the Duchy of Grand Fenwick has been a sovereign and independent nation since its founding in AD 1370, and whereas the principal support of the Duchy of Grand Fenwick has been, during all these years, the production of the excellent and unique wine known to the world as Pinot Grand Fenwick, and whereas an ignoble imitation of this superior wine is being produced in quantity and sold at half the cost by certain wineries in the city of San Rafael in the state of California, which is part of the geographical territory of the United States of America, and whereas the sale of this spurious product threatens the livelihood of the independent Duchy of Grand Fenwick, therefore be it resolved, the Duchy of Grand Fenwick holds the sale of this wine an unwarranted and unjust and persistent and planned action of aggression against the Duchy. Therefore be it resolved that the Duchy of Grand Fenwick, having taken all steps it can to remedy the matter peaceably, does here and now, and by these presents, declare that a state of war exists between itself and the United States of America. The signatures follow.
Gloriana the 12th, Duchess of Grand Fenwick. I can see the boys in the press room coming up with a name like Gloriana, but I don't understand these other two. D. Venter, leader, Delusionist Party, and Mountjoy, leader, anti-Delusionist Party.
Do you think the president might actually get a kick out of this?
He's a little edgy.
I don't know whether to frame this, file it, or send it to the New Yorker.
To tell the truth, I'm a little edgy myself.
Oh, sir, when you reach Columbia, be careful.
I'll try, but I'm not as fast as I used to be. Oh, how I hope the students aren't restless tonight.
Close it up, knock it off. I'm having visitors.
Students?
No, nothing so unpredictable. Let's take a little walk.
Professor Pumpkins, do you know what's going on out there?
They're finally taking an interest in what they think we're doing. I'm thrilled. It excites me. That's why work here is so stimulating. I'll put you in for a silver star.
I already got it. Columbus rings.
Is everything all right?
Exactly right.
A call came while I was straightening the usual mess in your quarters. They're on their way now. 3 of them.
You're not supposed to know. You're a very snoopy housekeeper.
If I ever went over to the Russians. Your sandwich from the delicatessen. And I was thinking about who all is coming. I could stop by and pick up some cold cuts and some potato salad and a few dill pickles.
They're not expecting a smart sport. Pastrami?
Only if you have, if you'll excuse the expression, Russian dressing.
Professor Culkin!
Yes, please, come.
General Stewart, your members must.
staff.
I'm so glad you could come.
The person who just left, who was it? John Wayne.
When my assistant and I aren't going through security checks, we supervise a team of scientists that have just made you obsolete.
And, who is, what about,
Oh, Mrs. Rayner, she never went over to the Russians.
What?
I'm not serious. She never leave the Bronx. She's a member of my staff.
Oh, Your Honor.
Morning, sir. The correct salutation is Mr. President.
Mr.
Why don't you
President.
put out a press release?
Excuse me.
It's good to see you again, Professor.
When I called on the special line this morning, I had no idea it was so early.
I told you to call the moment you had something.
Sir, anyone could walk in here. It's not that just the university's in the middle of New York City, it's also the fact that the only security is a student monitor in the hall.
The professor finds the atmosphere conducive to research.
Ah, and with results to prove it.
General, these two whacks, are they always with you?
My name's Jill.
I'm Debbie.
Daughters of some influential senator, and you seem to have a soft assignment.
Certainly not. I don't believe in that sort of thing. They're my daughters.
Why don't you stand outside, if you wouldn't mind sentry duty?
We love sentry duty. He never lets us do anything. We keep applying for transfers.
Don't be silly, I'm Secretary of State.
I almost made it without being recognized.
Let's proceed.
It's done. The new computer the Navy loaned to me was a great help. With the others, it would take it 2 years. As it was, only about a month. Of course, I was a year in setting up the problem for the machine to solve, and I had to work in hopes that a machine capable of solving such a problem would actually be invented. That's water under the bridge. Ah, here it is. Beautiful, huh? The mass difference in the nucleus is the greatest yet achieved.
Mass difference?
Having to do with the amount of power released from the nucleus is split.
If we go into details, you'll either be confused or get the wrong impression.
In simple terms, what is it?
Quadium.
I'll call it the Q-bomb.
Quadium is a form of hydrogen that has not existed in the universe for 1 billion years. You understand. When I say a form of hydrogen, I speak to the layman.
Still speaking for the layman. What is its particular effect?
Well, that's the point. Quadium is the substance that probably first made the Earth a flaming planet. You understand, you're still flaming for millions of years after the quadium was expended, converted into denser nuclei, that is.
But what does it do?
Well, let me put it this way. You could say quadium started those stupendous fires. However, to the best of our knowledge, no quadium still exists in the whole of space.
Then what's the point?
Except in this cylinder.
But it's only what could you do with such a small amount? I mean, as a practical matter.
Incinerate an area of 2,000 square miles.
2,000?
Perhaps you know these scientists are. We can never be sure without trying. But it's no danger now, completely harmless. Until I fit it into a little thinning device I shall have to design especially.
This man should be sent away before he starts working on any detonating devices.
I told you I will not leave Columbia.
No reason why you should. There won't be any such thing as a safe distance now.
Quadium, please. I told you all you need to know. Now I get back to work.
Professor, if I may, what were to happen if someone were to...
So insane as to detonate quadium? The effect? About what you'd expect if that part of the Earth was placed in direct contact with the sun for the space of, say, 100 billionth of a second. Well, back to the detonator.
I should stay right here and start to set temporary security.
Better prepare some escape arrangements in case the protest outside suddenly turns into a rampage. If it does, bring up the professor, whether he likes it or not, and Quad.
There won't be any old-fashioned declarations of war after this. Anyone with a Q-bomb fires one shot, it's over.
Chief, speaking about declarations of war, funny thing happened down in the State Department today. You see, we received this letter. It was absolutely ridiculous. It had a double-headed eagle. Yes? Well, maybe some other time.
What's going on?
It's the Americans! Air raid!
Pick up someone your own size.
Captain Cook, or one of your cats? You think they'll bomb the castle?
Take to the open fields or take to the cellar. It's an air raid.
Which? Either one. I can't decide. Go and feed yourself. Take it with you.
They come! They're here! Hey! Paige, get out of here. It's not safe.
The Duchess Gloriana the 12th and David Mentor.
Your Highness, please take to the cellar.
No.
If you won't think of yourself, think of us. Think of me.
You?
If we stay up here, how can I get down there? And I might get killed up here.
Calm down, Joy. Stop that.
But, Your Highness, the United States Strategic Air Command.
I wish it was. Then we know they were aware of us.
But they might start dropping bombs.
The only thing they can drop is tourists. That's the Pan American, the flight between Paris and Rome.
Couldn't possibly. Oh, possibly. Of course. Right on time, too. I thought once we declared war, they'd do something. We could just surrender. This waiting's driving me crazy. You're driving everyone crazy.
Perhaps we haven't quite risen to the occasion.
If they won't pay the slightest attention to us, what can we do?
Escalate.
Escalate. Serves them right, too.
That's why I've decided it. We're going to invade.
Invade. The United States?
Itself.
A thing like that might make them very annoyed.
Even a microscopic invasion would give them such a shock they'd assemble overwhelming power against us. Then they'll start feeling embarrassed. They may be even more generous than usual.
But suppose we really make them mad. Yes, and suppose the leader of this emperor, this demonstration, gives the plan away. Once he's captured, we'll get the truth out of him.
That's why the leader has to be someone so sincere, so simple-minded, he truly believes he's out to defeat the United States.
No one can be that simple. You'd never find anyone.
Tony Baskin.
Anything to report?
I've assembled the volunteers, and I have a plan of sorts, but Glory.
I've appointed Tully Bascom High Constable of our Expeditionary Forces.
The obvious choice, Your Highness.
You do know the United States spends billions every year on ballistic missiles, atomic submarines.
I did
jet
not
fighters.
say I thought it would be easy.
But Glory.
If you'd rather I choose someone else for the
No,
job.
I'll do it. Count on me. If that's what you want, that's what I'll do. I'll drive the war home to the enemy. There's just one point to be settled.
What point?
How do we get there?
Select a tourist liner belonging to a neutral nation.
Third class. After all, we're soldiers. Then what do we do on arrival? Present ourselves through customs and go through the immigration department?
We'll charter a small boat. Something can be found in Marseille.
An ordinary Marseille fishing boat fits right in with my plan.
Tell us how you'll prevail.
The situation suggests a commando operation with light automatic weapons. We'll infiltrate Washington, D.C., either at night or in disguise. Their capital is full of dignitaries, and we'll seize the highest we can find as hostages, then retire to our boat with them and demand an investigation of our grievance.
I'm not sure I like this plan.
It's a wonderful plan. I only want to make a few changes.
Well, let's discuss this privately.
That's unnecessary. Instead of Washington, with all those dignitaries, a more worthy object would be their largest city, New York.
New York City.
And no disguises. We're not thieves. The boat should display the colors of Grand Fenwick, as should the men, as you march ashore proudly in broad daylight.
That doesn't leave much chance for surprise.
You question your sovereign.
And another thing, we can't afford automatic weapons. You'll depend instead on our traditional weapons.
The longbow? Now, wait a minute.
It was good enough for your ancestors. Is the job too much for you?
show the colors of Grand Fenwick as we go ashore in broad daylight and attack New York City with bows and arrows?
That's right, Tony.
Very well, Your Highness. We will do our best.
If I had reservations concerning the plan, you've completely removed them. What a strategy!
First volunteers are waiting for you to show yourself. I'm sure they'll need all the inspiration they can get.
It sounds like half the population is out there.
I'm sure I'll need inspiration too, Glory. Would you give me your favor to carry?
Of course, anything.
Your scarf, so that every moment of the expedition you'll be with me. I'd wear that honor in your service.
Oh, I want you to wear it.
Tony, we all have to serve our country, but we all have to serve in different ways. I want you to remember this. No matter how things turn out, it's for Grand Fenwick.
And Gloriana. We'll do our best. Come on.
This is your music and news and music station broadcasting from the Empire State Building, New York City. A new wave of demonstrations at Columbia University seems to be reaching a new climax as students protest what they claim is a secret weapons research project being carried out for the Department of Defense. The university administration would neither confirm nor deny the charge. Meanwhile, the protest demonstration appears to be growing. Before we go back to the music, here's an oddity from our news desk. The ocean liner, the United States, reported that shortly after clearing New York Harbor this morning, they sighted what looked like a small French fishing vessel flying a peculiar and unknown flag. They called on the loud hailer, asking her to identify herself, and were answered by a flight of arrows. Repeat. A flight of arrows. And I was worried about those new orbital bombs.
Professor, please, I think we better hurry.
Perhaps we could swing the subway, but certainly there's no cause for concern.
When I was a student, I had to study all the time. It was upsets. I get the feeling it was a hostility. They don't appreciate the genius of Professor Hawkins, and if they broke into his lab, they take all his things.
Now. Hostility is one thing. This is anxiety. Having way too irrational fears. Actually, these students, look at them.
They're coming up on us, and they're marching.
What kind of crazy outfits? It looks like they're wearing armor.
Nobody wears armor. You're right about me, Professor. I'm filled with anxieties. Let's get out of here.
Actually, I seem to have a hang-up too. My hang-up is I have this feeling I'm being shot at by arrows.
Come on, let's make for the subway.
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, halt! Left base, at ease. Men of Grand Fenwick, I've led you to the heartland of the enemy. We're in New York City. As far as I can tell, our first definite location is the intersection of the roads Broadway and 161.
161 roads.
There's even more.
Silence in the ranks.
Down with the bomb! Down with the bomb! Down with the bomb! The target is Professor Cokin's laboratory. Pass it along.
J-Mail, great idea.
Down with the bomb! Down with the bomb! Down with the bomb!
Sir, the enemy doesn't seem to be taking us seriously. I mean, telling us about a target, and then where we docked, those people with the long hair and the beads, the crazy-looking people. Must have been some kind of druids.
We'll give them a belly full of war, just as soon as we find their army.
Instead of warning shots, I should have winged those two just now. Look at all the castles. All the castles. Totally, they'll take a lot of storming.
Anyone too faint-hearted for the service of Gloriana can Turn back now and return with the guard on the boat.
All I said, but it'll take a lot of storming.
Tully, vehicle coming up the road. Looks military.
Form up here.
Army car.
U-Bowman, shoot out its front tires. We'll cover with supportive fire if necessary. Forward for Fenwick.
Those tires don't have much target.
Fire! Got them.
Hey, what do you fancy students think you done to my cheek?
He lacks respect. Shoot off his cap.
Beautiful shot.
Bring them here.
This is more like it. Fenwick is the best archers in all the land. After all, we can only hunt squirrels.
You know, my mother makes the best squirrels too in all of them.
Oh, my mother? She makes the best barbecue.
Are these handcuffs? Maniacs! Psychopaths!
Don't touch me! Yes, sir. These are two girls.
You'll get 20 years with hard labor and solitary confinement.
Why?
Why? You're in review with an Army General and actor. You almost caused a crash with an explosion. Oh my heaven!
Careful, Dad.
Let me guess. You're filming a scene from William Tell.
Actually, we're commencing hostilities with the United States. You're our first prisoners of war.
Commencing hostilities?
Boy, protest all you want. In dissent. I believe in dissent. But what you're doing is not commencing hostilities. This is not war.
It's war. You'll be treated in accord with the Geneva Convention.
Boys, this is serious business. This is the state of the United States. This is the security of
The security of the United States?
Don't say any more.
About what?
My name is Jill Snippet. My serial number is 65543. Debbie Snippet. Serial number is 76621.
Don't be silly, girls. I'm just going to teach these cut-ups this is serious business. There's a helicopter right now. I need to get the professor to a
The
safe
general escorting a professor? The security of the United States?
You're not students?
Your car would crash. What would have blown up?
Who are you? I command no one.
I'm Toby Bascom, High Constable of the Expeditionary Forces of Grand Fenwick.
I don't keep up with these things. I don't even have time for the papers. Was there a reason for declaring war?
Over what? What better reason?
Over wine. What better reason?
Sir, are you carrying explosives?
This? Oh, it's an experiment.
Keep your distance.
I'm going to have to.
No,
Sorry, but cries of war.
Hold it gently.
Is it a weapon?
It's chemicals.
Oh, if it's just.
No!
All right. It's a bomb.
You should have just said so.
Such a small bomb.
That small bomb, if it explodes, will blow up all of New York. Also Philadelphia, and Hartford, and Pittsburgh, and
Even if it was packed with gunpowder, it couldn't blow up one building.
He's lying, Tully.
I don't think so, but why would you create such a weapon?
it's so powerful it makes war out of the question. It's a peace weapon.
Grand Fenwick is so small, we could use a peace weapon. Fall in, we're marching back to the river.
Ha! You made it! Don't turn on long, you'll never get away with this now!
Perhaps. Meanwhile, in line.
What? Oh, no, you can't! United States Army General! You can't do this! Hey,
Keep your mind on the bomb, please.
this is actual security!
Get this.
Citizens! Help!
Attention!
Foreign invaders!
Left
They're
face.
taking us to the river! From the Hudson!
2, 1, 2.
Call for 6 Army Desert!
quarters isn't doing a bit of good. He hasn't answered all day.
Probably being pulled up in his laboratory to put through a regular call in there.
No, I don't want to go to the campus switchboard. I tried reaching General Snippet as well, but he won't answer either. His staff hasn't seen him since the campus demonstrations.
He's really getting an empty hand this time. There was him in a report since he's wearing armor.
It was such a mistake to let Professor Koch institute such sensitive research at Columbia.
Sir, you should make an appearance at the reviewing stand. The military has been involved with the greatest armed forces day parade ever. Posts are confident.
I can't leave yet. The Secretary of State is on his way over.
I've got my open the window again. Thinking through the tremendous display you're missing.
Sure, military hardware worth billions, but it isn't as powerful as that much of a certain form of hydrogen. When I say a form of hydrogen, you realize I speak for the layman. If that's better, send him right in.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
I've been hiding out in the side office because it has a direct line to Professor Tokens. I've been trying to reach him since this morning.
Probably hold up in his laboratory. Have the FBI look and see. The chief, the reason I asked to see you, it's incredible.
I called the FBI about 4 hours ago. They're under wraps. Not only security, but it's a diplomatic professor.
The professor's under strain. Maybe he went away for a few days' rest?
That might explain General Snippet. He would have gone along to keep an eye on things.
The general's missing too, then I'm sure they're together. But chief, the reason I asked to see you, it's unbelievable.
I already got a preliminary report from the FBI, but it's just trifles. Vandalism at Columbia, a peculiar flag around the flagpole, that sort of thing.
I wanted to see you about the peculiar flag myself.
I keep interrupting.
I don't know where to begin. A small group was found in New York after a demonstration. It was turned over to a museum, but they couldn't identify the crest, so they thought the State Department recognized it.
I have so much on my mind.
Please. A Middle European specialist identified it as a crest of Grand Fenwick, a tiny duchy founded in the 14th century.
That's interesting.
But we'll have to hear the rest. You see, then I would...
Listen, I'm so...
Mr. President, we are at war with Grand Fenwick. We have been at war with them for weeks. Furthermore, there's evidence we've been invaded by a small force from that country, which apparently then in New York, but then drew during the upset at Columbia.
You're out of your mind.
I was beginning to think so myself, but not now. What did this flag look like? The one on the university flagpole?
Bird with 2 heads.
The flag of Grand Fenwick.
No.
Having my secretary look at it and find the declaration of war, it had the identical crest.
Have you seen the document?
I thought it was a joke. The boys in the press room.
So would I. Are these people crazy or have they got some reason?
Apparently we threatened their livelihood.
We did?
I've had a crass investigation underway since this morning. To find that this country depends on the export of a particular wine, which apparently outlet in California has mimicked, stole their labor and everything.
But we're a reasonable nation. Why didn't they try a sensible approach?
They did. I find this a perfectly valid protests.
What happened?
Someone sent them on to those California winemakers for comment.
And?
The winemakers used the protests in a series of advertisements of questionable taste, claiming their product was so similar it brought an official protest.
Oh no.
We don't look so good this time, Chief. A country with military equipment out of the 14th century.
Miss Johnson, open the window again. It just isn't possible for this country to be invaded by 14th century Europeans.
It's tremendous. The most powerful military display I've ever seen.
That Fenwick country, they can send protests, mail over a few knickknacks. But they can't even get away with even a token of invasion, I tell you.
Sorry, sir, but an FBI messenger brought this in from New York. He said his first step in to Sir General Snippet.
I wonder what on earth. But as soon as we know what happened to Snippet, then we'll know our code.
What is it?
Where was this found?
It was found by a groundskeeper at Columbia University.
Would you say this arrow looks 14th century?
It doesn't look 20th century Sears and Roebuck. Chief, I'm trying to make you realize what's happened.
We've been invaded by men with bows and arrows. They either captured or killed General Snippet. Miss Johnson, did you say where this was found in Columbia?
He said it was found in a bush beside one of the laboratory buildings.
Laboratory. You don't suppose that if Tokens had finished the work, and they got to him, and with Snippet out of the way...
Chief, direct line!
Oh, thank heaven. Hello, Cookins? Oh, you'll have to speak loud. There's so much noise in here. Who is this? Who is it? Miss Rayner? What are you doing on the telephone? Answer me right now. This is the president. Oh, yes, his housekeeper. Well, how is the professor? He disappeared. Yes, well, can you tell me when he disappeared? During the demonstration, yes. Yes, well, thank you, Miss Mayor. Have a good day. Well, how should I know what you should do with the sandwiches? Eat them yourself! What's the point? They got a hold of Cookins and the bomb. That little duchy is the most powerful nation in the world.
Grand Fenwick.
They declared war on us. They invaded us. And they've beaten us.
Will you stop that? I would like to throw it at you.
Don't even say such a thing.
You have to let him fix it. You have to let him make it safer.
I make you again.
Tully's told you no. No, no, no!
Must you guard me so closely?
Well, isn't this right? I've never guarded the general before. Be quiet, Dad. It's embarrassing. Face it, we're prisoners of war.
You call this goofy happening a war?
Silence in the ranks. I did not say at ease. I said halt. All right, at ease.
Tully, why couldn't we charter a bus to take us from the seacoast back to Grand Fenwick?
Well, we've had enough trouble without having to explain our prisoners to the bus company. Besides, the bus might jostle our bomb.
Could I make it a little safer?
No. Get this straight. You're not to touch it, not ever.
If they drop it, the Mediterranean will extend past here to the Alps.
We're being very careful.
Tully, why'd you have us change back into battle dress?
We're about to march into our homeland.
We've been taking so many back roads. And now these woods. How can you tell?
Couldn't you hear?
Sounded like the gunning of the engine of the truck.
The Fenwickian field mouse.
This is no time for legends, Tully.
I tell you, I've seen them, and the only place they occur is in our national forest.
You and your abominable field mouse.
It's some effect of the wind.
When we get back, I'll show you. You wait and see.
Did you at least write to expect us?
All I said in the note from Gibraltar was that we'll be there soon. We're under strict security. They'll know we're safe.
Wait till they hear what happened. They'll be so proud.
So surprised.
The first thing, I'll report to Gloriana. Let's hurry along. Attention. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2,
Now, don't get too excited.
1, 2, 1,
Just right
2,
there.
1, 2,
Easy.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
After slipping down a river named for the explorer Henry Hudson, we headed north till we reached the prevailing westerlies, and then made a fast Atlantic crossing, altering course to south-southeast. We made good time through variable winds to Gibraltar. A member of the crew will row ashore here and mail this letter. Inform families that all are well. Your obedient servant, Tully Bascom.
The whole letter? That's all?
Sounds like an entry to a ship's log.
Mailed to Gibraltar 9 days ago.
But he doesn't say what happened.
He's probably too ashamed. Coward.
We don't know if he's a
that they'll be, well, and almost coming back as fast as they got there. Maybe the Americans just won't go to war with us? Because Tully did nothing. I always knew he was an idiot, but I thought he would at least try to make some sort of simple-minded effort. If we had a radio, we could listen for news. Maybe we should invest in the radio. I mean, we're at war. If we were at war, if Tully done his job, we would have heard something by now from our American consulate in France.
Perhaps Tully wasn't entirely successful?
Wasn't entirely successful. He didn't even get captured. He didn't even get arrested.
Your Highness. Mrs. Bascom. We haven't seen you since long ago.
This is a meeting of the Privy Council. But nothing said concerning your son reflects upon you, Mrs. Bascom.
I was admitted at once because I've just from an attorney. They're coming up to the National Forest right now.
You think it's your son?
And the others. Their voices are just as legend describes the first Antwerp when they turned victorious from the Battle of the French.
Don't talk blasphemy, madam.
Blasphemy, sir.
Comparing our brave ancestors with these craven bunglers?
They're coming, they're here. You're certain they're our men? Can't you hear?
The Good of Grand Fenwick. I saw them myself.
Oh, they look so brave.
They must be the castle.
My son.
They'll tear him limb from limb after the court-martial.
Court-martial.
Really, Uncle?
He failed in his duty. I'm afraid it's self-evident.
He would not fail in his duty, Your Highness.
I'm sure we'll find extenuating circumstances.
We'll find excuses, and that's all.
At least let's hear the excuses, Uncle. Let them approach the throne.
Will Tatum and Tully Bascom.
I've assembled the bullet. I beg permission to report on our war with the United States.
War? Brazen effrontery.
Your Highness.
We'll hear your report.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Your Grace.
Well, what happened? Briefly.
Briefly, Your Highness, we won.
What?
The forces of Grand Fenwick return, as always, victorious.
Let's get to the facts. You followed orders.
To the letter,
You wore your uniforms.
with pride.
Boldly?
We marched.
Into New York City?
Our first definite location was the intersection of a wide road called Broadway and 161.
161 roads? There's even more.
Carrying what weapons?
Your Highness, we carried longbows.
And then you won?
Yes, Your Highness.
Tell us the truth, Will Tatum.
You've heard it, Count.
Impossible. Have you one scrap of evidence to support your ridiculous fantasy?
With your permission.
Yes, the evidence.
Some document that's a transparent forgery?
Bring in the prisoners.
Prisoners?
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, left face. This is General Snippet of the United States Army and 2 officers of the Women's Army Corps. Professor Kokins here is a nuclear physicist, and this object is a most powerful weapon created by Professor Kokins, but now ours, by right of conquest.
It doesn't look powerful. Alexander.
Don't take it to plug everything!
Silence, and don't faint on parade.
Even if it was filled with
Gunpowder?
yes, it couldn't even blow up
That
a
little
small
box
boat.
could blow up most of Europe.
If you say that one more time.
You must have heard of nuclear weapons.
Well, when I was in France, I heard something over the radio.
What?
They're powerful.
This little box is the most powerful. The only one of its kind. The cue ball.
United States will want it back. What will they do to us?
Oh, you've asked for it.
Fight that.
Ask for what, General?
His name is General Snippet, serial number 44421, and that's it.
What will they do to us, General?
What can they do? You have the Q-bomb.
Then we did win.
It was a fluke. About what?
Do you realize what you're saying?
I said you won by a ridiculous fluke.
He doesn't realize.
About their Q-bomb.
Our Q-bomb.
Yes. I want it taken to the deep dungeon.
Please, could I fix it up, make it safer, you know, so it won't be so dangerous?
Please, you have to let him adjust it. There'd be nothing to worry about.
There wouldn't be any Q-bomb either. He's not allowed near it.
Suppose it goes off accidentally.
We'll have to risk it.
Are you giving the orders now?
I haven't abdicated to you, Tully, or to anyone else. I said take our Q-bomb to the deep dungeon.
You must let me go along with...
Silence!
Place it carefully on a bed of straw. You give your parole not to escape? The deep dungeon is so uncomfortable.
Oh, all right.
Take the general and the professor to the guest wing.
We'll make sure you're quite comfortable.
This way. Ladies! Show the army ladies to the vacant room near mine. And help them get settled.
I wouldn't mind going barefoot like you. These shoes are terrible.
I'm only occupationally barefoot.
We'll see to the posting of border guards.
Without asking permission.
With your permission.
Granted.
Highness, I wonder if we should put straw on the roads going over the deep dungeon to deaden any of the vibrations.
We'll consider it.
Well, you've certainly put us in a fix.
Fix?
You might as well import an active volcano and place it in the middle of our valleys. The Americans will never buy our lines now, not after this.
But we're at war.
Yes, but
We didn't
I
expect
mean,
you.
What are you trying to say?
They're concerned about the Q-bomb.
I thought their concern was that my son might not do his duty.
There doesn't seem to be any question on that, Mrs. Bascom.
What is the question?
don't take that tone with us.
I don't understand your concern.
Our concern is that you've placed us at the mercy of that frightful little box. Why don't we send it back?
And give up our victory?
If that bomb were to blow up, it wouldn't only take out our country, but the French, the Italians, the Germans, and the Dutch. Surely all of Europe, which is the cradle of Western civilization. You deserve the most severe reprimand, impeachment, exile.
But didn't you want me to win? What was I supposed to do? Lose?
You keep questioning us. The Privy Council will have to consider the situation. Perhaps you want to escort your mother home.
Thank you. But before I leave, I must return your favor. It was an honor and inspiration, Glory. If you'll remember when you gave it to me, I said I'd do my best. By your leave, Highness.
Proud day, my son.
Outrageous upstart. Getting too big for his boots. Because he won a war.
Yes, but he didn't know it.
I used to dream that we'd lost, and all this aid came rolling in from America. What are we to do now? Rehabilitate the United States? Oh no.
I never thought of that. Your Highness, one of the young ladies carrying a small radio in the back. She said that it had a short waveband, which means you can hear it a long distance.
I think I can handle it. Maybe I can tune into the United States?
Yes, if there's any truth to this nightmare, we'd surely hear some reference to it.
I think we'd have a better chance reaching the U.S. up on the roof.
You're to help the army ladies get settled.
I've got
We
something!
will conclude this special BBC News summary with a direct quotation of the question put to the Foreign Secretary today in the House of Commons, and his reply. The Honourable Member for North West Hampton rose to ask, is Her Majesty's Government aware of the reports that the Duchy of Grand Fenwick has declared war on the United States, invaded New York City, and seized a bomb which, according to report, is capable of destroying an enormous area?
Tully told the truth.
The Foreign Secretary rose, and I quote his reply, Her Majesty's Government is looking into the facts of the case. Meanwhile, we point out that those intrepid men from Grand Fenwick are of English extraction. There were cheers from both sides of the House. Now, for another example of enlightened non-commercial radio, a recorded discussion of sheep ailments in Western Australia.
I don't know which.
We continue our commentary in English. The proletariat of the independent state known as Grand Fenwick has been subjected to intolerable economic warfare by the imperialists of San Rafael, California. Placing themselves in the vanguard of the proletariat everywhere, they have invaded New York and captured the Q-bomb, with which the barbarous money worshippers sought to destroy civilization.
This is America. They
This
certainly have
Q-bomb is
freedom
one
of
which
speech.
we as civilized people refrain from making ourselves, although it is well within the skill set of our comrade scientists. Now for another example of superior socialist radio, a symposium on the diseases of sheep in the Western Cossack.
I think we'd have a better chance reaching the United States up on the roof.
Come.
Has the program started yet? How should I know?
Now, live from New York, the combined television networks bring you an eyewitness account of that tiny country which is now, in a sense, the most powerful nation in the world. This program is also being carried by shortwave radio overseas.
Nick told you to smile. I am smiling.
We bring you inside Grand Fenwick. What was your first impression of Grand Fenwick?
It's small. But one shouldn't overlook a country just because it's small. We're particularly wanted to see Grand Fenwick.
How long were you there?
How long? Let's say it this way. Our stay was all too short.
And what brought you there?
Oh, a Volkswagen.
No, the reason.
Oh, bird watching. Fenwick has many native birds.
A country that small?
Well, the only being that can pass on the nationality of a bird is the bird.
Well, did you notice anything?
They have a variety of trees, a waterfall 20 feet high, and a haunted oak.
So does the park in Patterson, New Jersey.
One other thing. When we were walking into the forest, there was this tremendous noise. It sounded like something roaring.
Roaring? That's better.
It was strange. When we looked to see where it had come from, there was nothing.
Let me add that there is already speculation of the possibility of a Fenwickian secret weapon. A transcript of the interview will be turned over to the Pentagon. Stay tuned for a public service feature roundtable. This topic today, sheep hygiene in West Texas.
Transcript to the Pentagon. It's a conspiracy! Maybe it really was a secret weapon. What are we doing today?
Well, first we're going to the Y, then the BPOA, the Women's Club, and 2 high schools.
Like schedule today, huh?
red buttons that read, Friend of Fenwick.
Sir,
Thinking of the shabby way we treated that country, I'm tempted to wear one myself.
we can't allow the center of the world's military power to be here to them.
Oh, Mr. Preston, would you like some tea?
No.
All right. Have a good afternoon, gentlemen.
Let's have your suggestions.
Send in secret agents.
Everybody knows everybody in that country. Secret agents wouldn't stand a chance.
Then ignore public opinion. Overwhelm them with a lightning military thrust.
We couldn't get to them fast enough to set off the bomb.
You don't believe they'd exploded?
Would you believe that a small band of men carrying bows and arrows could come over on a chartered sailboat and invade the United States?
Chief, the thought of that crazy little country with a Q-bomb gives me the willies. What's to stop them from a military alliance with... Oh.
I've been listening to the Soviet broadcast. They're beaming more transmitters at Grand Fenwick than at North and South America combined.
We have to stop them before anything like that can happen.
I'm still open for suggestions.
You've eliminated the only alternatives yourself.
Except for one.
What?
Sue for peace.
Why would they sue for peace? They have the Q-bomb.
Exactly.
I don't see where you're
It
going.
is the first time Festin. They don't sue for peace. We do.
We? The United States?
What else can we do?
Sue for terms from a country whose total population would make a good game at a football game. There must be any better number of alternatives.
I could be running out as we speak. Give me one better alternative right now, or get aboard a jet to the landing field nearest Grand Fenwick.
What terms are authorized?
Anything within reason. If they're willing to trade for tokens in the bomb, go to the limit. If that's impossible, keep it from falling into the wrong hands. That's the main thing.
Got the pictures.
Oh, and Preston, if they'll trade for Snippet and his daughters, you know, might as well get them back too.
Sure thing.
You are the defender of the free world.
Mr. Benter?
I didn't think you would... Sorry. He's looking for you. I didn't think that he was in the throne room today.
Well, best time for the real business of state. Find Her Highness and present my request for an audience.
Yes, Count.
Mountjoy, I was so upset by your message.
David Benter. Oh, I'll present your request.
Came early. You said the duchy's in danger.
A passing danger, thanks to us.
We'll get rid of the bomb?
Undoubtedly, and the one other danger along with it.
What other danger?
Can't you recognize the signs of the coming ground for power?
In Grand Fenwick?
The best way to deal with these things is never the opposite. She's coming.
The Duchess Gloria.
Deal with what? You haven't told me anything.
Remember the motto of the Mountjoy family.
Defend the duchy through statecraft?
Precisely.
What about your family?
My dearest wishes that we would continue to serve for all of time, but this may not come to pass.
You're going away?
I refer to the possibility that there may be no descendants to serve.
Why not?
To come directly to the point, your grace is unmarried.
She is much too young to be worrying.
Please. The royal line of Fenwick is in danger of extinction.
I can't be thinking of marriage in a time of crisis.
That's when you should think of it.
I certainly won't marry someone because you say it has political advantages.
It's much too vital for things as unpredictable as personal affection.
I won't go into this, Uncle.
But it may affect the internal security of the realm.
How can marrying some bloodline affect our security?
The matter is more urgent than you realize.
I'll tell you a man who can protect our internal security. And our external security as well.
You'll accept whatever disappointment and heartache attend the relationship, whatever frustration of your logical hopes for a more appropriate match, and you will endure this marriage for the sake of your country.
Meaning?
For compelling reasons, you must marry Tully Bascom.
Tully Bascom?
I realize the terrible blow. His boorish characteristics, manners learned in a national forest. So stubborn.
What compelling reasons, Uncle?
When the most popular man in the duchy is also the most ambitious, it's a dangerous situation.
You're confusing me.
You've seen the way they look at him. They'd probably do anything he suggested.
That doesn't mean he's unreasonably ambitious.
A man who, contrary to the intentions of his ruler, wins a war against the United States is not to be trusted where ambition is concerned. He's practically taken personal charge of that terrible bomb, and he won't listen to anybody. You must have noticed his constant insubordination. What if he decided now to form a subversive party?
Marriage would solve all this?
United to your grace in matrimony, his popularity would be directed to the throne. By the same step, his ambition would automatically be gratified, thus leaving matters such as getting rid of the bomb to trusted ministers.
I confess you're persuasive, Uncle.
There's a patriot. It's country first with that girl.
Uncle, this is far from settled.
Oh?
We don't know how he feels. He may not want to marry you.
Oh, of course he will.
He may not like me at all anymore. He certainly wouldn't bother with things that show someone cares about you. All he ever talks about now is duty.
That's what we're talking about. In view of uncertain times, you should get the matter settled immediately, this afternoon.
That's absolutely impossible. His mind is on other things entirely. There's no way in the world of getting him to ask.
It's not his place to ask.
Not his place.
You're a sovereign, Gloriana. The proposal must come from you.
Me?
Why can't you regard the matter as completely impersonal?
I just don't know, Uncle.
Well, there's no harm in, say, taking a walk through the national forest. Perhaps when we can get to talking.
Nonsense. Find the man at once and tell him he's getting married.
How should I do it that way, Uncle?
I can only encourage the custom and examples of your ancestors.
I think I'll go out for a while.
It's a lovely day for a walk.
The way Tully is now, this isn't such an easy walk. You'll excuse me.
Yes. If this marriage should take place, you think Tully will let us get rid of the bomb?
It's psychology.
Because it'll take his mind off the bomb?
Because the marriage will make him feel important. The reason why he's so protective about the bomb now, it's his status symbol.
Right.
Stop!
No.
Step back. We can't let you do it.
Do what?
Break your parole. You gave your word as an officer and a gentleman.
I'm not trying to escape.
Then what were you doing?
I was going to go find Count Mountjoy. He's going to teach me how to play whist.
That's true.
Then why were you sneaking? You were tiptoeing.
Professor Kokins told us to be careful walking over the dungeon, so I was tiptoeing.
Of course.
When you slammed that door, it nearly took 10 years off my life.
Are you out of your minds? Are you trying to explode this entire part of the world?
Sorry.
You risk the entire destruction of Europe. And you say, sorry.
You gotta fix this bomb. We can't keep living like this.
The men of Fenwick enjoy playing with fire. The kind of fire you'll find in the face of the sun.
No.
Ever try slamming that door again?
Come on. We have important work to do.
What work?
Vital work for this country. We're late for it now.
In fact, you almost didn't make it.
Collaborationists!
I'm sure the bomb couldn't really be set off by distant vibration.
You have reassuring information about the trigger mechanism of the quantum bomb.
You gotta let them fix it.
We can't. If you were to disarm the thing completely, we would have nothing. Not even for bargaining purposes.
You could watch closely. It would take me 30 seconds and I'd only remove one tiny part.
How tiny?
A cylinder no bigger than this.
Well, what's in it?
A form of hydrogen.
Water, H2O, chemistry, hydrogen.
Tully gave definite orders.
Tully will have other things on his mind. Would removing such a small piece really make it safer?
You have no idea.
We don't have the authority to do something like that.
He said this big.
You'll have my word, absolutely.
Yes. Take the general to the library. I'm assuming full responsibility.
That's the spirit.
Fine. This way.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Yes. I'll have to see you past the sentries.
Of course.
If you do anything more than what you said,
I'll have your head on a pike.
and when we say that in Grand Fenwick, we mean literally.
We command you as our loyal subject to marry us. No. We suggest you marry us. Marry me. Will you please marry me?
Your Highness? Yes? I thought it might be.
Mrs. Baxter, I was expecting to see Tully.
Oh, he'll be along soon, or would you like to leave a message?
I better not. I have something to say to him.
About spending all his time guarding our frontiers instead of looking after the national forest.
You've noticed a change in him, too.
All he seems to think about anymore is the international situation. Pity the girl who marries him.
So do I. More and more.
Why don't you just leave a message, and I'll pass it along.
It's, well, personal.
Would you like him to leave when he gets here?
In a way, it concerns you, too. Don't think me rude, Mrs. Bascom, but how did Mr. Bascom go about proposing?
To tell you the truth, I did most of the proposing through my father.
How? Tell me.
I had my father take him aside and say something to the effect that he'd been asked by his daughter whether or not he would consent to being Mr. Bascom's father-in-law. By the time my husband agreed to the meeting, he was so surprised he kissed my father and shook hands with me.
Tell Will Taylor to report to me as soon as he knows who it is. On the double. Mother, there's someone at the border.
Gloriana would like to speak with you.
There's a big black car out at the border. Will Tatum's seeing about it.
I think she wanted to speak of something else.
Is there any way I can be of service?
I have a matter to discuss. It's a matter of state. It's something personal, too. It's more personal, really, than a matter of state.
I'll do all in my power to help.
It's not really a matter of helping. It's more, cooperating, of working with me.
Working with you.
Yes. Well, not exactly. Please, you say it. Say it the way it was said for you.
Tully, Gloriana would like me to become her mother-in-law. That's it, isn't it?
She wants you to become her what?
Her mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law? But you're my mother.
Precisely.
But mother...
And you are my only son.
Oh, mother. Glory, my mother accepts proudly. Her son, humbly.
Oh, Tully. Now, maybe we'll
Tully.
have a...
Sir. I have a message.
What's happening?
It's from the United States. It's the Secretary of State. His name is Baston. I treated him just as... Your Highness.
Go on.
Please.
I told him we'd only admit it if he came to under parley bearing the white flag of truce. He whipped out his handkerchief and started waving it. What now?
Escort him to the castle. We'll assemble with him there.
Right. Your Highness. He's Baston.
We'll take the shortcut.
Maybe while we're walking, we'll have a chance to discuss our plans.
We have to hurry.
She said while we're walking.
There isn't time.
Will there ever be?
Come along.
got a shield? Watch out for any funny. I'm trying.
Quickly, we've got to get ready for the parlay.
The Honorable Chester Buston, Secretary of State of the United States of America, seeks parley under flag of truce with Gloriana the 12th, sovereign of the independent Duchy of Grand Fenwick.
Let him approach the throne.
The Duchess Gloriana grants protection. Let him approach.
Not us. State your purpose.
Peace, restitution, and friendship. I'd also like to inquire about the prisoners you captured.
Over there, captured by our expeditionary forces after formal declaration of war.
It was a fluke.
Silence.
There were also 2 rats. What about that? Oh no!
My daughters!
A mouse!
Impossible. One must have gotten into the castle.
It started chasing us, and we're barefoot.
Have you girls been tortured?
Tortured?
What have they done to your feet?
This is from helping. It's fun. Treading on grapes. I wouldn't want to drink this stuff.
Any further comments on our treatment of prisoners?
Your behavior in all matters pertaining to this unfortunate war have been exemplary. The United States wishes to terminate hostilities and accordingly sues for peace.
Then hear our terms. Unlike most victorious nations, Grand Fenwick is under no obligation to rehabilitate the United States.
What?
Yes or no?
Yes.
The imitation Pino of San Rafael is to be prohibited.
That company was violating our own laws and has already been withdrawn.
Now for the indemnity.
All right, how much?
$1 million.
Billion? Did you say B for billion?
I said M for million.
Only $1 million. We spent more than that rehabilitating a small town in Germany or Japan.
There's an important difference. You see, they lost.
Yes, you have a point. However, the U.S. would like to do much more. If we send machinery, technical assistance, more money is needed. All we'd like in return is the Q-bomb.
I'm sure we could work out an equitable exchange.
No problem there.
Gentlemen, all matters concerning captured enemy weapons are to be left to our victorious High Constable, Tully Bascom.
Your Highness. Glory.
Be reasonable, Tully. We can drive such a bargain.
You name it.
I don't bargain. I levy tribute.
Tribute?
The United States pays the indemnity. California must pay tribute. An annual tribute of 12 dozen pomegranates.
Pomegranates?
For Gloriana.
You do think of me.
Of course I do.
Look, we'll pay the pomegranate. The pomegranate growers will bless you. You'll make pomegranates the in thing. Now, as for the $1 million, I happen to have it on me. Let's talk about the bomb.
But there's nothing to talk about.
You were told silence.
I have plans for the bomb.
Plans?
Please, Tully, get rid of it. We'll form a new group to keep an eye on the big 3 and all such mighty powers. We'll form the Tiny 20.
The Tiny 20?
Insane.
Assuming the bomb was as powerful as ever, what would you do with it?
Well, you called it a peace weapon, and that's what I'd make it. I don't know if we could deter some power-mad aggressor, but we can give them one more reason to hesitate. One more thing to worry about.
What reason?
I'm serving notice that Grand Fenwick will not allow any more aggression.
But you haven't said what you do.
Well, the power trying to take over would face a determined task force in which we would transport our mighty bomb to within their border, where I'd strike it with my mace.
You wouldn't. You'd be killed.
The country trying to start a war would have to face the possibility that we mean what we say. I'd strike it with my mace.
But you can't. There's no more bomb.
That's not true.
Of course there's a bomb.
No, there isn't. Professor Coates got to it. I know he did.
He was only going to take out a tiny cylinder.
He was going to what? Make it safer, that's all.
Ha! You idiots, he disarmed it.
Professor, did you get Claudia?
In spite of this man's insane refusal to let me near the bomb, I got there anyway.
And?
And I couldn't do a thing. Warn the world, they must not do anything to bring down the wrath of Grand Fenwick. You see, this peace weapon may be even more powerful than I first thought.
Highness, the only question remaining, does he have your authority?
He is our High Constable, and soon to be our husband.
And able to tell the rest of the world no war, this microscopic little mouse of the country